The story begins with 32-year-old Satoru Satomi, who has recently inherited his family's old bathhouse, Aobayu. The building stands quietly in a fading neighborhood and faces bankruptcy. Only a few customers visit now, and most people believe the bathhouse has no future. The wooden walls look worn, and the entrance sign hangs loosely above the door. The place feels empty and lifeless, as if the warmth that once filled the air has slowly disappeared. Even so, Satomi does not lose hope and refuses to abandon the business that his family once protected with pride. Instead of closing the bathhouse, he forms a new plan. He decides to transform the old space into a modern share house. He studies each room carefully and imagines how they could be renovated and rented out like the popular shared homes people talk about these days. He believes that if young tenants move in, the building might feel alive again. The idea sounds promising, yet money remains a serious problem. He has almost no savings for proper renovations, and every repair seems costly. Despite this pressure, he chooses to move forward because doing nothing would mean certain failure. Today feels important to him because the first visitor finally arrives, and he sees it as the beginning of change. Kyoko Mine, a 28-year-old web designer from Tokyo, appears at the door. She carries herself with quiet confidence, and her neat appearance contrasts sharply with the aging structure around her. The sight of her makes Satomi nervous and self-conscious. He wonders whether someone like her could ever accept a place that looks so old and neglected. He thinks that if the house were fully renovated, she might consider staying, but in its current state, it feels embarrassing. Mine notices his uneasy expression and gently asks if something is wrong. Startled, he straightens his posture and calmly assures her that everything is fine. When they arrive at the building, Mine pauses near the entrance and looks up at the faded sign. She quietly asks if the place is closed. Satomi feels his throat tighten, and he awkwardly explains that it is not closed and that she is actually the first visitor. The confession makes him feel exposed. He admits that he has been worrying about living alone forever if no one decides to move in. As the words leave his mouth, another thought suddenly strikes him. If she agrees to stay, it means the two of them will live alone under the same roof. The image of sharing a house with such a beautiful woman makes his heart race. Embarrassed by his own imagination, he quickly pushes those thoughts aside and begins the tour. Mine points toward the front entrance, assuming that it leads inside, but Satomi explains that it belongs to the old bathhouse and that the share house entrance is located at the back. Even so, she says that she wants to see the bathhouse first. Her request catches him off guard, yet he nods and allows it. He slides the door open and gestures for her to step inside. The wooden floors creak softly beneath their feet. The large bathing area stretches out before them, empty and silent. The air feels cool and still, as though time has stopped inside the room. Satomi expects her to look disappointed, but to his surprise, Mine observes everything with bright curiosity. She walks around slowly and studies each corner, as if she is imagining what the place could become. Watching her examine the space fills him with unexpected hope. He carefully asks whether she likes the bathhouse, but her expression turns uncertain. It does not seem to impress her as much as he wishes. They move to the second floor, where narrow stairs lead to several small rooms. He explains that he plans to convert these spaces into simple living areas. After finishing the tour, he asks if she has any questions. Mine looks at him calmly and asks why he chose to turn a bathhouse into a share house. At first, he tries to sound casual and says that shared houses are simply trendy these days. She clearly does not accept that answer. After a short silence, he decides to speak honestly. Traditional bathhouses no longer survive in this era. Customers disappear and most of them shut down. He cannot bear to watch this one vanish as well. Converting it into a share house feels like his final chance to protect something precious. He finishes speaking and waits nervously for her reaction, believing that everything depends on her decision. A month passes, but she never contacts him again. Satomi assumes it is because he tells her that this plan is only his last resort. He also admits that the place might still go bankrupt even if she moves in. Remembering those words makes him feel heavy and defeated, and he believes that he ruins his own chances. One day, while he stands outside lost in thought, someone calls him from behind and asks if the bathhouse is open today. He turns around in surprise. Standing there is Mrs. Mine, and she says that she has come to take a bath. Satomi feels confused the moment he sees Mine step inside again. She lives far away in Tokyo, so traveling all this way just to take a bath feels unusual and difficult to understand. He watches her quietly as she prepares to bathe, and a strange uneasiness settles in his chest. While she disappears behind the curtain, he remains alone at the counter. The empty room feels larger than before. His thoughts begin to spiral, and he experiences a small mental breakdown. He wonders why she is really here. He questions whether she has any interest in the share house, or if she simply visits for the bath. The uncertainty makes it hard for him to breathe calmly. Time passes slowly. The sound of running water echoes faintly through the hall. He stares at the counter and imagines different possibilities, yet none of them feels certain. Every minute stretches longer, and his mind refuses to settle. After a while, she finally comes out. Her hair is slightly damp, and her expression looks relaxed. He gathers his courage and asks for her feedback about the bath. She thanks him politely and says it is great. Seeing her look so fresh and beautiful makes his heart skip a beat. Heat rises to his face, and he quickly reminds himself that she is only his customer. He tells himself that thinking any further would be inappropriate. With effort, he controls his emotions and keeps his posture straight. She then walks toward the small refrigerator and studies the milk bottles inside. She examines each flavor carefully, as if the choice is important. Satomi feels puzzled watching her take this simple decision so seriously. After a moment, she calls him over and asks if she can buy 2 bottles of milk. He is startled because he has been lost in thought. She mistakes his silence for hesitation and looks slightly concerned, but he quickly reassures her that it is completely fine. Trying to ease the awkwardness, he offers to show her something new. He leads her up the narrow stairs and opens the door to the rooftop of the bathhouse. The wind blows softly, and the evening air feels cool and calm. The city sounds fade into the distance, leaving only a quiet atmosphere around them. He asks if she likes it there. She looks around slowly and says she likes it very much. He tells her that since childhood, he always comes here after bathing and drinks milk on the rooftop. Only people who live in the bathhouse are allowed to come up here, so the place feels special and personal to him. Mine tilts her head and asks why she is allowed here. He explains that he forgot to show her this spot last time and wants to share it now. He thanks Mine sincerely, his voice carrying quiet emotion. He shares with her that he wants to protect this place and never abandon it. The thought of having new guests, of seeing life return to the bathhouse, makes him genuinely happy. He smiles softly, admitting that he is really glad she came back. He adds that he will not lose hope and will continue giving his best, determined to preserve the place he cherishes. Before he can finish, Mine interrupts him gently, her tone calm but resolute. She tells him that she will live here. Satomi freezes completely, stunned by the words. Her eyes meet his, questioning if something is wrong. He shakes his head quickly, struggling to regain composure, and welcomes her with a small smile, saying she simply caught him off guard. Mine explains that she has made up her mind to move in. She says she only needs some time to think, that fatigue had weighed on her before, but the bath has left her feeling refreshed and at peace. Returning to the bathhouse, she watched it transform into a share house, and the sight filled her with gratitude. It is a place where she can bathe freely again, where warmth and familiarity remain. She tells Satomi that if there is no problem, she would like to stay. Hearing this, he feels a flood of emotion. Tears well up and stream down his face, a mix of happiness, relief, and quiet gratitude. Mine notices and grows slightly worried, but he reassures her softly, saying it is nothing and that the tears are simply arriving late. Words fail him, and all he can feel is the weight of relief pressing gently against his chest. Though the beginning of this journey had been simple, awkward, and uncertain, the decision is finally made. The bathhouse now truly becomes a share house, a place filled with laughter, warmth, and shared life. Their new chapter begins, a quiet but powerful promise carried in the surrounding air. It has been a month since Miss Mine moved into the share house, yet living together does not go as smoothly as Satomi imagined. Each morning, he greets her politely, but she only gives him a quiet stare and walks past as if she does not hear him. The silence between them feels heavy. One day, she notices him outside handling pieces of wood and asks what he is doing. He explains that he is preparing firewood to warm the bath water. Because he has no money for gasoline, he uses scrap wood as fuel. The method is slow and exhausting, and during summer, it takes more than 3 hours to heat everything properly. Mine says nothing and simply watches him work. Her steady gaze makes him uneasy. He quickly adds that she does not need to worry about any extra fee because the wood costs nothing. It all comes from discarded materials. Even after his explanation, she remains quiet. Satomi grows nervous under her expression. Yet he tells himself that things could be worse. He accepts the situation and continues working as if nothing is wrong. Night falls, and Satomi sits alone at the table, a quiet frustration settling over him. Since Mine moved in, he has tried his best to adjust, to anticipate her needs, and to respond immediately whenever she asks for something. He moves gently, carefully, hoping to make her feel comfortable in the old bathhouse. Yet she refuses every favor, insisting she can manage on her own. Her independence, while admirable, makes him feel unnecessary, like his efforts go unnoticed. He begins to overthink, the familiar weight of doubt pressing against him. He worries that no one else would want to live in such an old, worn place. He fears that the reputation of the share house might suffer. He had started this project with hope, believing he could revive the bathhouse, bring it back to life. But now, with every quiet refusal, uncertainty creeps into his heart, whispering that maybe his efforts are not enough. After a long pause, he straightens his back and forces himself to breathe, to calm the storm of worry. He reminds himself that this is only the beginning, that giving up now would waste all the energy he has poured into the place. Determined, he starts planning small ways to make her stay more comfortable. His thoughts turn inward, recalling the subtle signs that reveal what she enjoys. He remembers how carefully she selects milk, the way she moves through the bathhouse with quiet curiosity, and the calm look she wears after a warm bath. These simple moments, he realizes, are clues to what matters to her. Satomi decides to pay attention and adapt, aiming to make the bathhouse a place where she feels at home and life can be enjoyed again. Lost in these thoughts, he does not notice Mine approaching from behind. When she suddenly calls his name, he jumps in surprise. She asks if everything is all right. Trying to act calm, he hesitantly asks why she came home early today. She does not answer, and simply says she is going to her room. Before she leaves, he blurts out a question and asks if she would like him to heat water for the bath. She stops and looks at him silently. He immediately realizes how strange his words sound. His face grows hot with embarrassment. He only wants to make her happy and show that the place can be comfortable, yet it comes out awkwardly. He feels foolish and thinks he should apologize. He even considers bowing sincerely so she might forgive him. Just as his negative thoughts overwhelm him, Mine speaks quietly. She asks what time he plans to heat the water since she has the day off tomorrow. Satomi stares at her in shock. He never expects such an answer, and for the first time in weeks, a small spark of hope rises inside his chest. They walk together to the furnace room behind the bathhouse, where stacks of dry wood are piled neatly against the wall. This is where the firewood is burned to heat the water. The air smells faintly of smoke and old timber. Mine looks around with curiosity while Satomi explains the process. She calmly tells him that she would like to be responsible for the fire today. Satomi feels surprised but nods and begins teaching her carefully. He shows her the stock where the firewood is placed and details how the heat travels through the pipes to warm the well water. He tells her that the system is simple in theory but difficult in practice. The most important part is controlling the temperature. If the heat becomes too high, the pipes can get damaged and even break. If it is too low, the water will never warm up properly. He says the temperature should stay between 90 and 95 degrees Celsius. Mine listens closely, but her expression slowly turns confused. The explanation sounds complicated. Noticing this, Satomi gently shows her the meter on the wall where they check the temperature. He offers to start the fire himself, thinking it might be easier, but she shakes her head and insists that she can do it. Her determined look surprises him again. He guides her step by step. First, he tells her to place newspaper or sawdust at the bottom because they catch fire quickly. Then he asks her to add small pieces of wood since they ignite more easily. After that, she can slowly place larger logs on top once the flames grow stronger. Mine follows his instructions. Soon, the fire begins to crackle and spread. Warmth fills the small room, and the orange glow lights up their faces. She watches the flames with quiet satisfaction. She asks if she simply needs to add more firewood whenever the temperature drops. Satomi agrees and assures her that he will stay nearby if she needs help. Trusting her, he leaves to finish other work around the bathhouse. An hour passes before he returns. Guilt creeps into his chest for leaving her alone with such hard work. When he steps back into the furnace room, the heat hits him immediately. Mine stands near the fire, her face flushed and beads of sweat forming on her skin. He apologizes for making her handle everything alone, but she calmly says it is fine. Still, he worries and asks if she is truly all right because the temperature inside is too hot. She nods and says she will remove her hoodie since it feels warm. As she pulls it off, her shirt is damp with sweat. Satomi quickly looks away, his face turning red. Meanwhile, Mine finally exhales and seems relaxed, enjoying the cool air. Later, Mine changes clothes, and they sit together in the small dining area. The night feels quieter than usual. Satomi glances at her cautiously and asks if she is feeling all right now. She nods and says she feels fine. Hearing that should ease his mind, yet guilt still lingers inside him. He lowers his head slightly and apologizes. He tells her that he feels bad for troubling her and swears he will not ask her for favors again. To him, it seems better to handle everything alone rather than make her uncomfortable. Mine looks at him with a calm but serious expression and tells him he is wrong. She replies that she knows her behavior can make people uneasy. She admits that she often keeps her distance from others and does not get involved too much. It is simply her nature. Satomi quickly disagrees and says there is nothing like that. He insists that he never feels uncomfortable around her. She gently shakes her head and continues. When she decided to move in, her intention was not only to find a place to stay, but also to change herself a little. She wants to try new things and step out of her habits. Helping with the furnace is part of that effort. There is nothing to be sorry for. She also points out that since he is always trying to do things for her, she wanted to do something for him too. Her words overwhelm him. He does not expect such honesty. Still confused, he awkwardly wonders if she only heated the water to help him and if she was not actually excited about it. He adds that she does not look very enthusiastic when she watches him work. Mine suddenly gives him a flat stare and asks if she looks childish to him. The question catches him off guard, and the air between them turns awkward in an entirely different way. In the morning, Mine wakes slowly to the soft light streaming through the window. Her eyes fall on a small shape curled beside the bed, a cat with calm golden eyes, its fur rising and falling with each slow breath. She stares in surprise. Stepping into the hallway, Satomi introduces the cat as Yutanpo. The pet belongs to a regular customer who is currently ill and will stay at the bathhouse until she recovers. Satomi apologizes for not asking first, worried that Mine dislikes cats. Mine reassures him. She doesn't dislike cats, she's simply never had one and isn't sure how to act around it. Satomi relaxes slightly. She notices how naturally he handles Yutanpo and asks if he's used to cats. He smiles faintly, recalling a pet from long ago. Yutanpo has become the bathhouse mascot, friendly with everyone, and treated like family. Satomi explains that the bathhouse is a close-knit place, always peaceful because visitors are familiar with each other. Mine feels a warm flutter in her chest and straightens her posture. She promises to take care of Yutanpo as well. Satomi laughs nervously, telling her she's scaring him. She simply nods, saying she will do her best. Later, she searches online for tips on bonding with cats, learning that lowering herself to their level and speaking softly helps. While sitting in the office, she overhears some girls gossiping about her quitting the job and mentions that it has been 3 years since her husband died. They whisper that they can't judge her feelings, and Mine listens quietly, lowering her gaze. Later, the chief approaches during a quiet moment. He greets her casually and asks about her paperwork. Mine stands straight, apologizing for making a sudden decision to leave. The chief waves it off, saying a person only lives once and should follow their own path. His calm response eases her tension. He studies her carefully, then suddenly asks if she has a kitten. Mine explains it's temporary and wonders how he knows. The chief laughs softly, revealing his long experience observing people. He notes she doesn't know how to handle the cat and has been looking up tips online. Flustered, Mine asks how he figured that out. The chief steps closer, plucking a strand of cat hair from her shirt, and advises her not to trust everything on the internet. Acting naturally works best. Mine sits speechless. That night, she returns home to find Satomi holding a relaxed Yutanpo. She reaches out to pet the cat, but Yutanpo pulls back, tail flicking nervously. Remembering her online advice, Mine kneels carefully, lowering herself to the cat's level. Satomi tilts his head in confusion. She whispers that it's to earn the cat's trust. Her posture is stiff, expression serious, yet Yutanpo recoils further, darting behind Satomi. Embarrassment floods Mine's face as she realizes her attempt failed. Satomi lifts the cat into his lap and gently asks if she wants to try something different. She hesitates, then nods slightly, appreciating his patience. The quiet moment is filled with understanding, trust, and small, careful steps toward connecting with a wary companion. They prepare to bathe Yutanpo. Mine watches as Satomi carries a small tub and arranges towels. Confused, she asks what he's planning. He explains it's an Aobayu specialty, a cat hot spring. Mine protests that cats dislike water. Satomi reassures her that Yutanpo is used to baths and enjoys warm water. He guides Mine in preparing the tub, instructing her to mix hot and normal water carefully, ensuring the temperature is comfortable for sensitive cat skin. Mine follows, testing the water before passing the bucket to him. Together, they lower Yutanpo into the tub. To Mine's surprise, the cat doesn't resist, instead stepping calmly into the warm water. After a moment, she settles comfortably. Mine stares in amazement. Satomi encourages her to pet the cat now that she's relaxed. Hesitant at first, she slowly reaches out, stroking Yutanpo's head. The cat leans into her touch and stays close. Mine softly remarks she never knew cats could be so clingy. Satomi laughs, noting the cat seems especially affectionate today, perhaps seeking attention or companionship. Mine continues petting carefully. Just then, Yutanpo suddenly jumps from the tub onto Mine, splashing water everywhere. Her clothes are soaked. Satomi freezes, his face turning bright red. Mine notices his reaction, and an awkward silence fills the room. Mizuki Tamaru, who prefers to be called Usamaru, storms in the share house, her anger barely contained. She demands to know about Mine, turning to Satomi with sharp eyes. Satomi, calm as ever, asks why she is inquiring, reminding her that she already knows Mine lives here. Usamaru's glare intensifies, her voice rising as she insists that she wants the truth. She mentions the other day she saw Mine heating the water and questions his behavior. She reminds him of a promise he once made to her. He recalls that she has always wanted to work here. Satomi remembers vaguely but acts as though he does not know she's a high schooler. Usamaru does not calm down. Her energy is raw and impatient as she tells Satomi to stay and listen. At that moment, Mine returns, coming back to retrieve something. Satomi stiffens, suddenly awkward, and asks how long she has been there. Mine simply states that she has been hearing everything from the start, her expression unreadable. Satomi tries to ease the tension, attempting to cool the situation, but Usamaru remains unshaken. Though still young and unsure of what to say, she fixes her gaze on Mine, her intent clear. She challenges Mine to a battle, declaring that they must decide who will be the lady of this place. That is how the competition for employment begins. The next day, the first round of the challenge begins. Satomi approaches Mine cautiously, asking if she is certain about participating. Mine replies that she cannot ignore Usamaru's words and intentions. She starts to explain further, but the cat suddenly appears, interrupting her, and her words fade into silence. Satomi steps back and calmly lays out the first task, cleaning. Usamaru dives in with boundless energy. She begins with the shoe rack, checking carefully that no belongings are left behind. Her movements are rapid, almost frenzied, as she scrubs and organizes every corner. Mine watches closely, offering gentle guidance, reminding her to slow down and focus on doing each task thoroughly. They move on to the room, and then the front desk. Usamaru continues at her relentless pace, driven by determination and excitement. When they reach the shampoo and body softener dispensers, Satomi steps in once more, instructing her to work slowly and carefully. He emphasizes that precision and attention matter more than speed, and Mine nods in agreement, quietly supporting the guidance. The energy in the room is a mixture of determination, guidance, and quiet care, setting the tone for the start of their shared challenge. Throughout, Mine remains composed, precise, and measured, while Usamaru pours her youthful energy into every movement. Satomi observes both, ensuring they understand the rules and the expectations. Usamaru's determination contrasts with Mine's calm efficiency, setting the stage for a battle that is as much about skill as it is about heart and promise. The following day begins with preparations for the changes they will need for the day. Usamaru, full of confidence, immediately raises the price to 500, expecting it to be accepted. Satomi frowns and firmly tells her not to alter it. Usamaru pauses, slightly embarrassed, but quickly nods, realizing Satomi has had enough of their antics. These preparations are all that are required before opening. The remaining task is customer service. Satomi explains that most of their clients are elderly and enjoy small talk with the staff. She emphasizes that they should not be afraid of engaging with them, but also reminds them not to push themselves too hard. Mine hesitates, her introverted nature showing as she quietly absorbs the instructions. Usamaru, on the other hand, feels confident. She is a regular here, familiar with everyone, and believes this will be an easy task. That confidence falters, however, when she sees how many elderly customers fill the cafe. Satomi notices and advises her to take it easy, not to feel hesitant. On one side, a little girl smiles and waves at Usamaru, and she feels the warmth of their attention. The elderly customers treat her like their own granddaughter, while Mine, a stranger from the city, receives more distant acknowledgement. With a rush of excitement, Usamaru introduces herself to everyone, speaking energetically and cheerfully. Despite her efforts, the elderly patrons give her only polite attention, and some continue with their routines without much engagement. After the cafe closes and the customers return home, Satomi, Mine, and Usamaru begin the cleaning. Satomi asks Usamaru if she would like some fruit milk, and Mine requests a latte once the work is done. Satomi thanks both girls for their hard work. Mine insists it is unnecessary to thank her, admitting that she enjoyed the day and had fun, especially interacting with the cheerful elderly patrons. Today is special. The occasion is to welcome Mine. Curiosity sparks in Usamaru, and she asks why Mine decided to do this, even though he had made a promise to her when she was a child. She presses, reminding him that the promise was meaningful and should not be so easily invalidated. He explains that Usamaru had always lived with her mother and his family often invited her to enjoy a bath freely. Mine says Usamaru wants to work to repay a small debt of gratitude, but Satomi insists it isn't necessary. The joy of the baths as a child was enough. Mine considers Usamaru's determination, noting that her desire to work stems from her sense of responsibility and earnestness. Mine herself understands the feeling, having felt refreshed and peaceful after a bath on a tiring day. Yet she knows that her sense of peace comes from more than just the refreshment. There is a deeper comfort, a quiet calm that cannot be measured, and that makes her reflect on Usamaru's feelings and intentions. Satomi notices Mine's reaction and feels a flicker of confusion. Her expression is unreadable, his eyes slightly distant. She quickly clarifies, hurriedly explaining that she saw Usamaru today and that she seemed to be genuinely enjoying herself. Her own thoughts stumble over themselves as she tries to put across her meaning, unsure what she is even trying to say. The moment grows awkward, so she decides to end it simply, murmuring "good night" before stepping away and leaving the room. The next day brings the announcement of the winner. Usamaru is named, but her expression is surprisingly subdued. She looks at Satomi and questions the decision, asking on what criteria the winner was chosen. Her dissatisfaction is clear, and Satomi hesitates, taken aback by her insistence. Usamaru presses further, pointing out that Mine performed exceptionally in every task, and she cannot understand why she was selected over him. She calls the result unfair and hints at favoritism. Satomi reflects quietly, realizing that she herself cannot pinpoint the exact criteria. When asked, she admits that the decision was based on how much fun Usamaru appeared to be having while working. Despite the explanation, Usamaru's frown remains. She is still not satisfied. Satomi shows Mine the pamphlet for the celebration, explaining that it is a joint welcome party for both Mine and Usamaru. Just as she suggested they do it together, Mine studies it quietly, her expression unreadable. Satomi hesitates and adds that if Mine does not like the idea, she does not have to participate and can speak to Usamaru. Mine shakes her head, smiling faintly, saying that she could never refuse something like this, especially for someone working so hard in the office. As they talk, Mine's phone buzzes. It is Usamaru, asking her to bring some food from the Tokyo Metro. Satomi shakes her head and tells Mine not to bother herself. She laughs softly while scrolling through the group chat, thinking Satomi sounds like a mother scolding a child. The chief appears, silently observing Mine as she chats on her phone. Another employee comes over to speak to the chief, but he is too distracted watching her and does not respond. Later, Aobayu closes for personal reasons, and the celebration begins. Usamaru has taken charge of preparing food and drinks, infusing the space with her boundless energy. She moves around eagerly, encouraging everyone to cheer and toast, her excitement practically contagious. Satomi glances around and notices that for a moment, it almost seems like only Usamaru's welcome party. Mine chuckles softly and lets it slide, enjoying the liveliness of the moment. When Mine brings meat to the rooftop, Usamaru's eyes light up, shining with genuine gratitude. She thanks Mine sincerely, her voice full of warmth. The rooftop becomes the setting for a lively barbecue, Satomi explaining that he thought it would be the perfect spot to share a meal, high above the familiar rooms of the bathhouse. Curious, Mine asks if Usamaru has ever been to the rooftop before, recalling Satomi's remark that no girl other than herself had ever been up there. Satomi clarifies that this is an exception. Usamaru is considered part of the family. Usamaru shakes her head and corrects him gently, saying it is not just her. Her mother used to come here as well. The memory carries a comforting weight, a quiet connection bridging generations, and Mine feels a subtle warmth in her chest. For a moment, the group sits together, sharing the simple joy of the celebration. Laughter mixes with chatter, carried by the rooftop breeze. The clinking of glasses, the sizzling of food, and the casual teasing between them create a feeling of home. In that moment, the bathhouse feels alive again, filled not just with walls and rooms, but with shared happiness, connection, and the quiet certainty that they are building something enduring together. Satomi gets worked up, trying to explain himself, his gestures frantic and his voice tight, but Mine cuts him off gently, telling him that it is no big deal and he is overacting. The tension eases as they continue eating, enjoying the peaceful moment together. The sounds of laughter and conversation drift from the city below until a voice carries up, asking why the shop is closed today. Satomi stiffens, deciding to go see, thinking it might be a new client, but Mine asks him to wait, recognizing the voice immediately. It is her chief. When Satomi and Mine step outside, Mine explains that the shop is closed because of their welcome party. Satomi bows slightly, apologizing for the closure, while Mine introduces her chief as Ryuji Saruwatari. Usamaru shakes her head playfully, saying it is not necessary to say the whole name, claiming it is not cute. Mine glances at her chief curiously, asking why he is here. He explains that he was worried about how his employee is doing and wanted to check in. Mine blushes slightly, pointing out that he should have informed her before coming. The chief admits that he tried, but she had been lost in her phone, looking excitedly at the screen. Satomi raises an eyebrow and teasingly asks if she had been excited, but Mine quickly tells him not to say it out loud, hiding her face shyly. Usamaru, however, cannot resist and voices it boldly, asking if Mine had been excited for the party. She blushes deeper, covering her face, while the chief observes the teasing with fond amusement. He smiles warmly and says he will be heading out, realizing he has arrived at the wrong time. Satomi gestures for him to stay and come in, but Mine insists that he does not need to invite himself. The chief insists he does not want to interrupt their celebration, but Satomi waves it off, saying it would be proper for him to join. The chief's expression brightens, and he agrees to come in, joining them for the rest of the party. As night falls and the rooftop party winds down, they decide to enjoy the bath. The chief, invited by Satomi, joins them and seems genuinely pleased, relaxing in the warm water. Satomi also joins alongside him, and the atmosphere is lighthearted and warm, filled with shared laughter and a sense of connection between Mine, Usamaru, Satomi, and the chief. The night passes peacefully, the bath serving as a quiet moment of rest and camaraderie after the celebrations. The chief turns to Satomi, curiosity and a hint of amusement in his eyes, and asks if anything is going on between him and Mine. Satomi shakes his head calmly, saying they have not done anything like that, leaving the chief with a look of mild disappointment. He had expected some interesting stories to hear, but Satomi had none to share. Satomi, seizing the moment, asks the chief if he thinks Mine will enjoy living here now that she is spending more time at the place. The chief looks puzzled, not immediately understanding the question. Satomi states that Mine always seems to carry some weight on her shoulders, a heaviness in her demeanor that is hard to miss. The chief nods knowingly, but he does not reveal his thoughts, only saying that it is not something he can decide. Satomi agrees, admitting he would not know how she truly feels. Seeing Satomi's face darken with concern, the chief softens, noting that he has never seen Mine this happy before, especially enjoying a party. Satomi's expression brightens at the observation. The chief reminds him to take good care of her, and Satomi promises he will, quietly adding that he is just her landlord, nothing more. Meanwhile, Mine and Usamaru continue their celebration, laughing and enjoying the food, fully absorbed in the joyful moment together. After finishing their baths, they head up to the rooftop to enjoy drinks. The cool night air carries the scent of the city, and the lights twinkle below. The chief sits with a glass of beer, taking in the view with obvious delight, his expression bright and animated. He savors the drink, leaning back to enjoy the combination of warmth from the bath and the crisp night. Icy follows suit, quietly enjoying her beer, her movements relaxed after the comforting soak. Mine joins them after her bath, feeling refreshed and calm. The chief leans slightly towards Satomi, murmuring that Mine looks particularly appealing after her bath. Satomi immediately flushes, unsure how to respond. Mine notices and tells him to simply ignore the chief, a playful smile tugging at her lips. She informs Satomi that Usamaru has fallen asleep. Satomi nods, telling her not to worry, explaining that Usamaru often comes to nap here when her house is empty. Recently, she has been coming more often, though not excessively. Both Mine and the chief exchange glances, noting that Satomi is acting slightly unusual, but the chief dismisses it with a grin, saying he will stay on the rooftop for the night. Mine hesitates, but Satomi reassures her that it is fine, and the chief lights up at the prospect of drinking through the night. The trio spends the night enjoying their drinks, laughing, and playing cards under the city lights. Eventually, sleep claims them. Mine wakes at 3 in the morning, needing to use the bathroom. As she walks through the quiet bathhouse, she notices Satomi still working, cleaning the bathtub meticulously. She makes a small noise, and Satomi looks up, apologizing for possibly waking her. Mine shakes her head, asking if he always cleans this late. Satomi explains that if stains are left overnight, they become permanent, so it is better to handle them immediately. Mine insists on helping, but Satomi initially refuses, still slightly tipsy from earlier drinks. She pouts, arguing that she cannot let him do all the work alone, not after he prepared so much for her. Satomi relents, and together they begin cleaning. Mine quickly realizes how hard the task is. She notices that he always heats the water first and carefully scrubs the tub, and says that much effort shouldn't be needed every day. After all, many bathhouses clean only once a week and even use gasoline to heat their water. Satomi shakes his head and explains that while there are many ways to relax, his grandfather taught him that people leave their sweat and emotions behind in the bath. That is why the bathhouse prepares fresh, clean water every day. It is a matter of pride. He cannot allow his grandfather to be disappointed by shortcuts. Mine smiles at the thought, saying that his grandfather must have been impressive, though Satomi admits he could be scary at times. They finish the cleaning together, the night quiet again, leaving the bathhouse spotless, and Mine with a newfound respect for the hard work behind it. Satomi thanks Mine quietly, noting that it is almost morning, and she has stayed up far too long helping him. She shakes her head, saying she has often thought about helping here, and that it feels right to do so. Satomi hesitates, unsure how to respond, and tells her that she does not need to worry about such things, that she should focus on her own work. Mine interrupts gently, mentioning that he will be quitting in just a month, and perhaps that is part of the reason her chief came to check on her today. Satomi raises an eyebrow, asking if she is quitting just to help him, but she shakes her head, saying that her decision was made even before coming, yet seeing how things are and how he handles the work makes her feel it is not something he should manage alone. Satomi insists that it is his problem and that she should not burden herself with it, but Mine replies that she is now a member of this house too and has already made her choice. He sighs, realizing that arguing further is useless, and mutters that he does not know who is being weird, a small laugh escaping him. Mine laughs lightly in response, the sound soft in the quiet bathhouse. Together, they pause for a moment, silently admiring the calm and pride of the space around them. Satomi then reminds Mine that she also has Usamaru to help him, but Mine notes that Usamaru only often comes on weekends. The scene shifts to Mine standing quietly at the memorial service, her posture composed, her face calm. Around her, the parents of the deceased speak softly, thanking everyone for gathering to honor their son. The crowd murmurs among themselves, glancing at Mine, noting her presence as the wife of the man who has just passed. Many whisper that she is beautiful, newly married, and feel a deep sorrow for her loss. They cannot understand why she shows no outward grief, no tears spilling, no visible breakdown. To them, her composure seems cold, unbothered by the death of the man she had promised her life to, and they cannot help but stare. At her workplace, Mine switches back to the present, reporting meeting schedules and new client arrangements to the chief. He listens carefully, then gently instructs her not to overwork herself, reminding her to take care of her health. He offers her a month's leave if she needs it, noting that her unused leave could be used now. Mine thanks him for his consideration but declines politely, assuring him that she does not want to take time off and that he need not worry. The chief, however, remains concerned. He cannot believe that anyone could be fine after losing a spouse in a sudden car accident. He wants to help her but fears that saying too much might imply that she is not okay, making it harder for her. He struggles silently, unsure how to support her while respecting her composure. Later, Mine returns home, soaking in the warm bath to soothe her body and mind. Thoughts of her husband drift through her memory, his words echoing from their past. As a child, he had liked to visit his family's grave, a habit he had found comforting. Mine had questioned why it mattered so much, never understanding at the time. Now, as she remembers him, she quietly reflects on how ordinary things can carry deep meaning, the kind of ordinary wisdom that lingers even after someone is gone. A year has passed since her husband's death. Mine visits his parents at the graveyard, standing quietly beside the fresh flowers and the familiar stone. They look at her with gentle sorrow, noting how young and beautiful she still is, and urge her to live her life fully, to follow her own path. They ask if she has some time to come with them, and she agrees. They lead her to a place their son loved, a vantage point where the landscape stretches wide and green. They tell her he used to get excited whenever they came here, and show her the small house where they would spend evenings during their visits. From the overlook, Mine watches the place, her eyesight weakened but still able to take in the shapes and colors from afar. A quiet determination settles in her as she decides she wants to visit it again. When she arrives, an old lady notices her lingering by the path, studying her curiously. She asks what Mine is doing there, noting that she does not look like a typical visitor, and whether she has come to meet someone. The lady warmly invites her to take the first bath of the day, welcoming her inside. Mine steps in, observing the bathhouse with its worn fixtures, dull paint, and slightly chipped tiles, yet somehow feeling welcoming and lived in. She undresses and slides into the warm water, letting the heat seep into her muscles. Her mind drifts to her husband's words about visiting his family's grave. He had loved these trips, and she had never understood why. He had told her that the bathhouse sat near the top of the mountain, and after the long, sweaty climb in summer, it felt perfect to rest and soak there. The warmth and familiarity of the bath bring a soft smile to Mine's face. She remembers how he had always enjoyed the small, ordinary parts of the place, how they felt cozy despite their simplicity, and she agrees quietly that he was right. After the bath, she walks to her husband's grave, placing her hand gently on the stone. Before leaving, she says she will return, sharing softly that she now lives in the bathhouse he had loved. That connection, the memory of him, and the warmth of the bathhouse became the reason she chose to make this place her home. Satomi informs Mine that they will soon have a new resident moving in. Her expression tightens slightly, her brows furrowing as she asks how a new resident could arrive so suddenly. He shares that the newcomer had requested that Mine personally welcome him on his first day, hoping it would make him feel comfortable. Her shoulders tense and she remains quiet, clearly unsure how to feel about it. A week later, the new resident arrives. Satomi formally introduces him to Mine and Usamaru. Mine's eyes widen as she realizes it is her boss, the chief. He beams with excitement, his energy lighting up the room, and Usamaru mirrors his enthusiasm, bouncing slightly with delight. Mine, however, looks anything but pleased. She insists that she refuses to let him live here. Satomi gently explains that the chief signed the papers right after the welcome party, but asked him to keep it a secret until now. The arrangement is for the bathhouse to serve as his vacation home. Commuting from here to work would be too difficult, so he plans to stay only during his breaks. Satomi reassures her that he is confident about making the old bathhouse his vacation retreat. Seeing their joy, Mine reluctantly agrees, but clarifies that they will not be co-workers here, only roommates. The chief hugs Satomi tightly, tears of happiness welling in his eyes. Mine notices the mountain of luggage he brought, far more than needed for a short vacation. She questions why he needs so much, a feeling of unease creeping in. Satomi shrugs, explaining that they have plenty of room to store it, and Mine quietly apologizes for her former boss's unusual behavior. Meanwhile, Usamaru, curious and energetic, pokes at the luggage and pulls out a picture. Mine admonishes her not to look at his things, but Usamaru simply says she is helping with the luggage, smiling mischievously. The air buzzes with excitement and tension, the bathhouse suddenly feeling more lively than ever as the new dynamic begins to take shape. Mine holds the photograph gently, her eyes tracing the faces of the group of employees. She looks noticeably younger, her long hair framing her face in soft waves. The chief leans over, squinting at the picture, and admits he does not remember packing it with him, yet he explains that it is from Mine's welcome party at her employment. He recalls how quiet she was at first, how everyone struggled to get her to talk at work. Satomi listens, smiling as the chief notes that he has never seen Mine so excited for a party before. The chief teases Satomi, asking which version of Mine he likes better, the one with long hair from the picture or the short-haired version she has now. Satomi responds simply that he likes her as she is now, but the chief presses further, suggesting she might look scared in the short hair. Satomi smiles, insisting that both look beautiful. Usamaru pipes up, calling Satomi boring, and Mine stays silent. The silence makes them think she is upset, but in reality, she is flushed red and shy, avoiding their gaze. The chief and Usamaru continue teasing her, joking that she falls for comments too easily. Laughter fills the room, lightening the mood. Once the teasing dies down, they set about arranging the chief's boxes in their proper places. Afterward, they clean the bathhouse together, finishing all the chores. Satomi announces that he will prepare dinner, giving Mine the option to take a bath first. Mine offers to help, but Satomi says it is fine. The chief insists, saying he wants to eat something made by Mine, and plans to bathe with Usamaru, leaving Satomi and Mine alone. The sudden quiet makes them both feel awkward. Satomi breaks the tension by suggesting they start cooking. He prepares a small bowl of ice water, explaining that if they add a bit of ice while making tempura, it will turn crispier. Mine watches, surprised, admiring how careful he is with every detail. She comments quietly that Satomi is an incredibly hardworking person, taking care of the bathhouse and all the chores so thoroughly. Together, they start preparing the meal, the atmosphere calm and cooperative, yet charged with a quiet sense of camaraderie and mutual respect. Satomi glances at Mine, explaining quietly that he has always lived with his grandparents, so it is natural for him to treat the bathhouse as a home. He adds that his parents are not dead, they simply live abroad, correcting Mine's earlier misunderstanding. They walk through the quiet halls, speaking softly, when the sound of voices reaches them from the bath. Chief and Usamaru are laughing and singing, chatting comfortably in the warm water. The sound fills the space, cheerful and unrestrained. Satomi looks lost for a moment, and Mine asks if anything is wrong. He shakes his head, smiling faintly, saying it is nothing. He admits that he was thinking about how his grandparents would have reacted to turning the bathhouse into a shared home. He had wanted to save the place, but he wonders if, in doing so, he is truly preserving it or unintentionally changing it. Yet, hearing the voices, the laughter, the casual chatter, he realizes the life returning to the space is exactly what he hoped for. Mind smiles, telling Satomi that he has done a fantastic job, that it is a success. His eyes glisten, and for a moment, he seems moved beyond words. Mind teases him gently, saying he cries a lot, but Satomi waves it off, claiming it is just fruit milk coming out of his eyes. Soon, Chief and Usamaru emerge from the bath, noticing Satomi's teary expression. They relax together, chatting and laughing as the bathhouse fills with warmth, voices, and a feeling of home.
Here I am,